around like 16 years old.
Okay.
And I just remember thinking like, oh, wow, their life looks so perfect when my parents are divorced now. And like, we were just going through a tough time and stuff going on with my sister at the time and my mom being a single mom. And then she had gotten remarried. So there was just a lot of changes like happening since all of that like went down and stuff. So yeah, that was pretty hard because I would look at other people and just think their life was perfect, especially if their parents were together too, because mine weren't. So I just thought like, oh, these broken people. Yeah, like, why am I different?
Hey, Freedom family. Welcome to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast. My name is Kira Miller. I am the founder and host of this series. Every other week, we'll bring you some of the most life-giving conversations that will empower you to overcome your shame, own your truth, and unlock your freedom. Thank you for joining this conversation today. Now let your freedom journey begin. Hey, Freedom family. Welcome back to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast. My name is Kira Miller, and I am the founder and host of this series. Today's guest, we had my good friend and true lad, Rachael Nemiroff. She talked a lot about how she was bullied as a kid and how she actually struggled a lot with people pleasing, and also how she realized that compared to everybody else around her, she actually had sort of a broken family situation because her parents were divorced and just had some like things struggling in her family. So she talked a lot about that and how for the longest time she wasn't really okay with talking about that and she didn't own it. Well, that totally relates to my own story because I recognized the brokenness in my life and I didn't own it for the longest time. But when she decided to finally own what she was going through, just like me, that's actually when she was able to unlock her freedom. So yeah, if you feel really crippled by shame but you desire freedom, I truly believe my conversation with Rachael is going to help you to do just that. So I'm stoked to share this one with you guys today. Check it out. All right. So who was Rachael Nemiroff? Wow, I said your name right. First of all, great.
Yes, congrats.
In the beginning of your journey with shame.
I would say I just felt like I wasn't good enough and like I didn't have a voice. And just even being more like soft-spoken and shy, I would say, and kind of like ashamed of my story.
Yeah. And you were saying people pleasing too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I can't forget that. definitely a big people pleaser for sure. Just always like looking out for other people and their needs, which I think is good to like an extent, but when it becomes so much about
becomes your identity.
Yeah, about everyone else and you just kind of neglect
yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. How did you feel like that was sort of playing out in your entire life? Like go maybe from school and friendships, your family dynamics and relationships. Like how did this, who you were then, play out in like all those areas of life?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. Just making me like think back. I would say I just cared so much too about what other people thought of me as well, on top of just making sure, like, am I okay? Do they like me? Like, are they mad at me? Or what do they need? You know, like that played out so much through my life. Like starting from a young age, I can remember like 10 years old and just even stuff with my parents, wanting to make sure I pleased them, and especially my dad too. That was someone I always just wanted to
get his approval.
Yeah, get his approval. And middle school, wanting to fit in with the cool kids.
Oh, dude, I get that.
Yeah. I was kind of a part of this clique in 6th grade. I was like kind of in it, but not. It was like the mean girls. But
wait. Were you like the dorky weird one in the group of mean girls?
Because they didn't really want me in it, you know? So I was the one that got like picked on all the time.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. But I wanted so desperately to be in it. Oh,
I know, me too. But we just don't fit in.
It's so funny, like going back and actually thinking about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, even in high school too, just wanting to fit in, wanting to know like where I belong. And so, like you would ask, like people pleasing, just kind of just going along like with what other people were doing sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't know, at the same time, I didn't feel like I really fit anywhere, if that makes sense. So it's like there were times where it was mainly in high school where people would invite me like to go to different parties and stuff like that. And I remember just being like, oh, will they not like me if I go and whatnot? But I would spend like several weekends home with my family, like hanging out with them just because.
Instead of going out?
Yeah. So I still made certain decisions that weren't like always just doing what I thought everyone else wanted me to do, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, it just played out a lot in my life. And I would say it's been like, I don't know, that for a period of time until like a couple of years ago, I was realizing how much I was doing that. And I was kind of suffering inside because I was ignoring my own needs because I always thought that was a selfish thing to do. So,
Which I think many of us are like taught that from the beginning, like from the beginning of time, that we're taught that like caring about our own needs is selfish. When sure, it kind of is selfish, but it can be a good selfish too. Like we always think that being selfish is like a bad thing when really it's not necessarily like that. So I don't know. But talk about too how like you did have sort of your family sort of had like a rocky relationship, especially compared to everybody else around you who sort of had like the perfect childhood.
Yeah, totally. So my parents divorced when I was around 6 years old. We lived in Huntsville, Alabama at the time. And after they split, my mom and dad, we spent like a year or so in Huntsville, I think. And then we moved up to Pennsylvania where my mom's originally from. And started going to school and going to church and stuff like that. And I remember specifically this moment in church when I was looking over on the left-hand side, this family that I really admired. And the mom and dad were sitting together and all the siblings were there. They just looked perfect in my eyes at that time. I was around like 16 years old. And I just remember thinking like, oh, wow, their life looks so perfect when my parents are divorced now. And like, we were just going through a tough time and stuff going on with my sister at the time and my mom being a single mom. And then she had gotten remarried. So there was just a lot of changes like happening since all of that like went down and stuff. So yeah, that was pretty hard because I would look at other people and just think their life was perfect, especially if their parents were together too, because mine weren't. So I just thought like, oh, these broken people. Yeah. Like, why am I different? All of that. And, I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So that was a tough time. And I was so ashamed of that too. That's like a big thing too. We're talking about like shame and everything. Just so ashamed of that. Like I didn't want people to know, you know?
Yeah. And so you didn't really talk about it?
No, I really didn't. And then my dad and I have just kind of had a rocky relationship. And I remember being so embarrassed by that. And just seeing other people with their dads and especially just like different school events when you bring your parents and everything. Like I just didn't have that, you know? So I just felt a lot of shame and just felt like I couldn't talk about it. So
what were like the voices in your head telling you at that time? Obviously that you were different, but what were some other maybe like what was the narrative that kept replaying in your mind?
Oh, I'm trying to go back in that time. Just like broken. Yeah, broken. I don't even know if like I just like sadness. I don't even know like voices. I just remember like looking back and just
like seeing that one family and kind of just being sad.
Yeah, just feeling very sad. Also envious too, because I was wanting what they had. And it's so funny now looking back. You just never know what someone else is going through. And not to like make yourself like feel better about, but just like getting older, you realize like you just never know what someone else is going through, even if everything seems
perfect.
Seems perfect from the outside. Everyone has struggles. Everyone is walking through something.
Right.
So,
totally.
And have just learned a lot to not like be ashamed of my story, you know, and like understanding God was still writing it and is still writing it, you know? So, but yeah, those were like the voices just feeling like, okay, we're kind of different. And then just, I don't know, like I'm not good enough. I'm broken. Like, why am I in this situation? which is hilarious because my mom, I mean, you've met my mom. She's incredible.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
an amazing family, even with all the stuff that went on with my dad and whatnot. It's, I feel very grateful. But at the time, I just couldn't really see.
You were in the middle of it all. Yeah. What, what would you say during that time? Well, I think you said you were being bullied and stuff too. Well, you totally were. Like, I remember going back to your childhood home and heard all the stories.
Let's not revisit those. We can't.
But
okay, let it go.
Well, you were being bullied. So like, what did that look like? And I don't know. Well, and you were just talking about how you tried to fit in with the popular crowd, but you're kind of the odd one out that got bullied. I get it.
You understand.
Yes.
Oh, man, I felt so alone.
Yeah.
I just felt really alone. Yeah, just trying to find my place. And I was also very artsy, too, and that was kind of hard, you know, like
you're
from
flowery,
a small town. Too. You said flowery? What does that mean?
You shine a light on people? Oh, you got your hippie vibes too.
You're so funny. So
this is gonna be an entertaining podcast, folks.
Oh yeah, you're already entertaining me. It's hilarious. What was the question?
Why were you flowery? No, I'm kidding. It was like, well, you were basically getting bullied.
Yeah.
Like, what for, essentially? And how did it make you feel? It made you feel alone, you were saying.
Yeah. I can't really remember what it was for. I just remember in 6th grade, my mom got us these cell phones that could only call like 2 numbers, my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
And we could receive text messages. And I just remember, like I said, I was wanting to be a part of this girl clique. They were kind of known as like the mean girls, but I was like, oh, I want to be accepted,
so cool.
You know, 6th grade. Yeah. And that just did not end well because they just kind of picked on me. I don't really know why, but I don't know. So I remember this girl sending me my name spelled out as like an acronym and put like all these like mean things, like R is for this, like A is for this. 6th grade. Who would have thought?
For like making an acronym or something out of your name?
Yeah, I just remember getting texts coming through and I was like, okay, I guess I'm not a part of this mean girl clique. So I would say that's when bullying started, and I think everyone has gotten bullied at some point in their life, unless you were
in a different way.
The bully.
I think they got bullied too.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh, that's so sad.
It's sad.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say, man, this was like 9th grade. Stuff started kind of happening, and then sophomore year was when it was just not good. There was a girl who I was really close friends with at the time, and she just kind of got pulled into the wrong crowd. You know, at that time you're just discovering more about yourself, and everyone wants to feel like accepted and feeling like they fit in, and it was really hard at the time because she was like one of my best friends, and you just would never expect like one of your best friends at that age to kind of like turn on you. So that was probably one of the most painful experiences with bullying, because I was basically getting harassed like when I would go to school for a good majority of that time. You
changed schools too, right?
I did.
And like went to a more artsy school.
Yeah, I went to a more artsy school, and it was good for like that first semester that I was there, and I was like really close with that girl. And I would say the bullying, it only lasted for like the second semester is when that started happening. But yeah, I just remember coming home and like bawling my eyes out to like all that stuff that was going on with my family on top of that. And it just was not good. Like I remember telling my mom like I didn't want to go to school some days just because like they were just being so mean. Yeah. Just to be mean. Yeah. And girls sometimes can just be mean. And sometimes people don't understand because they're like, well, did you do something? Like, why is that? But I think
just because of who you were.
I don't know. I still don't know at this point. I don't think she knew what I was really going through at the time. I don't think she really cared. I just think, unfortunately, I'm not trying to like give an excuse for it, but I could just see where she got pulled into the wrong crowd, and they were just kind of mean girls and just wanted to be mean to other people. Yeah. Because that was going on top of like the family stuff. But what was really cool is there were some seniors at that school that kind of saw what was going on. And that was really beautiful because for so long I just felt like no one really had my back when that stuff would go on. And also because I was such a people pleaser, I would just kind of like take it. And I think because people like, oh, it's Rachel, she's not going to ever retaliate or like do anything. Right. They just kind of like walk all over you. And I kind of like allowed some of that to happen too. I just didn't really know any better, but it was really beautiful because these seniors saw what was going on and they essentially were the ones that like put a stop to it, which was really cool. So that was, pretty amazing thing.
Is that when you like really built up, I guess a backbone, they call it, right? Like, is that when you really built a backbone and like you started standing up for yourself and stuff?
I would say it wasn't until college actually when that started happening. But yeah, I just remember when they stood up for me, I was like, oh wow, like this is really awesome. Okay. And I just started discovering at that time, like more of who I was and just like the people that I wanted to surround myself with and stuff. Because I think too, being a people pleaser, you can tend to just like hang around people that might not be the healthiest for you and that take advantage of you. And I kind of experienced some of that even after that situation. Sometimes like when you go through something that's not great at first, you tend to like go through that again, you know, and totally. Just it takes a while to learn. To kind of treat you that way. And I realized like, I don't want to have unhealthy relationships like that. Like that's not what a good friend is. They don't make fun of you. They don't like put you through the ringer like that, you know? And that's just not healthy. So
when would you say, like, maybe talk about the time when you, I guess maybe when all of this like started coming down? Well, okay. Like, I think oftentimes before we have a big breakthrough in life, we have to have a big breakdown. So what did that look like for you? And was it maybe one event or was it a series of events?
Yeah, I would say it was a series of events for sure. In college was like probably the biggest like realization, I guess, of everything that was kind of going on inside of me and whatnot. But I started going to counseling, which has been amazing, and I'm still in it today, and I love it. It's been wonderful. And I remember at the time just being so like ashamed to even say that I was in counseling. I mean, you know, you probably understand too, because not a lot of people have liked to talk about that, but I think it's one of the most beautiful things.
I think when I was 15 and first started going, I'm pretty sure I started calling it like a doctor instead of a therapist, because I was like, oh, I don't want people to know the real thing. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to therapy. Woohoo! Because I'm like, I get to get out of school and like go get lunch out and talk about my feelings. Woo!
Yeah. Woo! Therapy. Oh gosh, that's
therapy's a wild ride.
Oh, it is a wild ride for sure. Oh gosh.
I know.
Yeah, I was in it for a period of time when I was like 12 or 13, but we were just like, get us the heck out of here. When you're young, you're like, I don't want to be in this. When you're older, it's like, oh wow, this is a really hard thing, but it's so worth it. Yeah. So I started going to therapy in college because there was an event that kind of happened, something that went down like with my dad and I, and like we just weren't really speaking much and whatnot. And I remember just feeling a lot of anxiety because that was a time when we were trying to like work on our relationship and whatnot. But I was just feeling super anxious, and it's like, you know what, I feel like I need to go and talk to someone. And I remember telling my mother this, who is just an angel. She was very helpful during that time because I remember going back, just it being such a dark time. I remember I was not able to get out of bed, and that was like the first time that I felt like I couldn't even get out. Life. I couldn't even
function.
Get out of function. And that was really scary because I'm typically like, I don't know, I would say like an optimistic person. Even when difficult things have happened, like I tend to just be like, oh, it's okay, which I think is also, I wouldn't say a problem, but it's not always the healthiest because I was always just like, oh, everything's okay all the time because I had to keep it together for my family, for other people, you know, and just act like nothing was wrong. But yeah, during that time when that happened, my mom like helped me find a good counselor just to go talk to, because it's like, I really need to talk to someone. And through several other like series of events, I just started discovering a lot of like these deep wounds that were there, and kind of why I was doing the things that I was doing, and why I became such a people pleaser, and how much like my heart was suffocating because I was just ignoring it for so long. And
you're ignoring your needs.
And that can become incredibly unhealthy
Yeah.
for a while, like if you don't deal with it. So yeah, counseling really helps. And I really feel like the Lord used that to shine a light on things that needed to come up and be dealt with. And it sounds so simple, you know, but it can be really hard, but like I said, it's so worth it in the end, because not a lot of people are willing to take that journey. Sometimes they're like face
what they're going through,
what their
fears.
Through.
Yeah. So counseling was really like what brought like the awakening in your life?
I would say so. Yeah. Counseling for sure. And then like some mentors and stuff like that that were placed in my life to kind of help me through all of that. But yeah, honestly, like counseling and therapy was very helpful. Yeah. And just like diving in deeper in my relationship with the Lord too. Like truly, I really believe like he uses people as well. And like I said, counseling my mom too. Yeah. And then even my friends. So yeah.
Okay. And then like when you had to face all of this, how did it feel at first? Like, was it a little too exposing? Because I think that's what happened for me. Like when all of my lies were exposed in my life, like I felt so alone, because for the first time in my life, I had to feel and like also just really sit in what I was going through, and I couldn't pretend anymore. So did you sort of have a similar experience?
Oh, absolutely.
Where you just felt like, oh gosh, this kind of sucks, and like I'm alone.
Yes, I understand. Because what I had mentioned earlier, this is a big thing that I've realized about myself. Like I just would act like everything was fine all the time, just because there was so much chaos that was going on with my family at the time, and just getting all that. Like just everything's okay. Like I'm superhuman and nothing bothers me. So I just ignored my own feelings. So yes, it was very hard. And there's still moments when I go into therapy and my therapist can like
make you
see through it. She knows I'm like, I'm good. Like why I'm like, great. It's like, Rachel? Wait, I'm actually, hold on. I need to take a moment and be like, and it was silly to me at first, because I'm like, okay, what the heck? But it actually really works. Like, oh, I'm actually feeling sad or I'm feeling angry. And I thought that was a bad thing to feel. I think it's all what you then choose to do with it, but like it's totally to normalize those emotions and be like, hey, this actually is a part of being
life.
A human being and not a robot. And I'm not perfect, but for so long I was like, oh, I just have to keep everything together. So it was hard, because I actually had to start feeling things.
Yep. So talk about like when you finally started feeling things then, and you really started to own it. So what was the difference between like the old Rachel and, I wouldn't even say like the new Rachel quite yet, but like the transition phase? Does that make sense? Like, how are you shifting as a person? Which I kind of feel like you're already touching on this, but if there's maybe more to add to it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good question. I would say, I know we can hear this phrase a lot, like it's okay to not be okay, or like it's okay to not have it all together and figure it out. I just think being open and willing to go on a journey where you may have to be like self-reflective, if that makes sense, to do so, just because I wasn't for so long. And I think when you're a child, like it's kind of hard too, because your brain's still developing. You're going through a lot in life and whatnot. But just how important it is. Like if you want to go to counseling, like it's not a weird thing to do so, or to talk to someone.
I think it's just sort of like, who are you like becoming in this transition period? Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, one, you were aware of who you were and the things you were going through. So you became aware. That's big. And then probably like strong. Yeah. Because you were finally starting to deal with things. So you're becoming resilient.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that, just becoming more aware. And then also like not to be ashamed of those parts of my story, and that.
Oh yeah. Talk about that. Like how you started owning it to other people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first realizing that I wasn't alone, because I think so many of us can feel like we're alone, and that no one else has ever felt this way or is going through this, or like when I felt alone, I was like, oh, if I speak out about this, you know, people are going to think I'm weird, or I just didn't really know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But just reminding people too, like, no matter what is going on in their current situation, that it doesn't always have to stay like that, and that you can overcome. So I think for a while I was like, oh, how am I going to kind of overcome some of these things? But just embracing it and working through things and acknowledging my feelings, which again sounds so simple, but like just even acknowledging is a big thing. Like, hey, I'm going through this, or I'm feeling sad, or talking to a trusted friend can be so helpful, just with like becoming more comfortable in who you are and not being scared to like share those things.
So really becoming courageous, because you were starting to own it and talk about it with other people. And how did you see that like was affecting the people around you too, as you were sharing things with them? Like, how did those relationships change, and like how did maybe even they change as a person?
Oh, I think
how did it inspire them?
Oh man, I feel like they've inspired me. You've inspired me. My relationships have just have gotten deeper, for sure. Less surface level, and just finding like the right people, like who I can share those things with, because I don't think you should just go around and like share every single thing about your life with just whoever. That has to be earned and gained and trust. But I remember just keeping people at a distance, and always like pouring into other people, wanting to encourage them, but never really letting anyone
giving
close.
Or like you would pour out, but you wouldn't receive anything.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, you shouldn't share everything with everyone, but like there are certain people like you should let into your life. Like it's a lonely life when you're not doing it with other people. So I was just so scared of that, because I didn't want to be hurt, and I also didn't want people. I think there was a thought that was like, oh, if people, they really saw like the true me, they wouldn't actually like me because I would be too much, or like
you'd be a burden.
So I would say God's just really brought a lot of incredible people in my life, women in my life. You're amazing. That have just really, you guys have inspired me truly just to become more comfortable in who God's created me to be. And we need each other, you know, when you find people that are going to encourage you in your walk with the Lord, and also remind you that you're not alone in what you're going through. So I feel like, if anything, I've been really inspired by my friends. You asked how I inspired them. I'm like, I don't know. You guys have inspired me. Seriously.
Yeah.
So true.
So how is like everything that you've gone through really influenced your music, especially right now? Because I feel like it's super different than a lot of other people's music.
Oh, thank you.
For the better.
Thanks.
For the better, Rachel.
Thank you. I'm trying to answer this without laughing. You're hilarious. So I would say, just even when I'm songwriting, just to be more real and vulnerable, because for a while I just kind of struggled doing that. But yeah, just being more open with what I'm writing, and reminding people like they're not alone in what they're going through. And even though their situation might feel very dark or very difficult, like they can't overcome, to just keep pressing on, because there is light at the end of it. Like, it's not going to stay that way forever, because like I said earlier, I remember feeling at times in my life where I just felt like I didn't know, like if there was going to be a lot. If there was. And my faith is really important to me, and my relationship with the Lord. And he has really helped me, not only me and my family, just kind of get through these difficult times. So I just want to remind people, first off, they're not alone, and that he is with you in the midst of it, even when you feel so alone. And so that's, I want people to be reminded of that, and also to feel like hope. But I don't want to just release music where it's always just like positive and all the time, and like nothing is ever wrong in my life or anything, because that's just not real life, you know? So I want people to feel like there is like a heaviness to some of it, but there's also hope in the midst of it, you know?
Dude, so when I think of your music, I actually said this to one of my other friends the other day, who I think has very similar songwriting and like the vibe of her music. But when I listen to your music, it helps me to like feel the pain that I need to feel, which is great because like you want music to help you express what you're going through. But then it also, like, the flip side of that is it does that for half of it, and then the other half like is the hope of God at the end of it. So you always you feel your pain, and then you have like the uplifting message where you're like, okay, but God is with me, or like God can overcome any of these circumstances for me. He's fighting my battles for me. That kind of stuff. Like you have both of those messages in your music, which I think is like so important. And maybe it's not like as radio friendly necessarily as like some other people's, because it's not all this like super inspiring, uplifting, and that's it message. Like it talks about pain. And I think that there's just a lot of music out there that doesn't really want to touch on that because I don't know if people know that they want that, you know? So I think that that's great that you're challenging people to see like, hey, this is really a good thing and this is what you should want. And maybe it is what you do want. You just don't know that you want it. So like your music just helps me to feel, which is great.
That's awesome.
And then gives me hope at the end of the day.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
it's
totally
really encouraging.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, I mean, like when you feel like maybe you are going to fall back into like, let's just say people pleasing, or like maybe thinking that your story is like too dark to talk about or that you don't have a voice, what do you do to like encourage yourself, or like what do you do to get back in the right mindset?
Yeah.
Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, definitely just checking in, because like checking in with myself, because I can tell when that's coming up. I've gotten very familiar with what that's like and just working through that and being like, oh,
recognizing it quickly.
Just recognizing it and noticing in the moment when it's kind of happening. So that's been very helpful. And then deciding, okay, like how am I going to choose to respond rather than what I've just been so used to defaulting to. So that's just like a lot of the work that I've been doing, and then being able just to make a decision from there. So.
Totally. Okay. And then who would you say has been like really holding you up throughout all of this?
Just throughout life. Everything that you've like really been going through in your life, like who has been sort of that rock for you? Like person,
God, anything, anybody.
Definitely the Lord. I mean, I honestly don't know what I would do without having a relationship with the Lord. So for sure, Jesus. And then my mom too. She's really been there through the highs and the lows. She's seen me at my best. She's seen me at my worst. And she has truly shown me what unconditional love looks like. And seeing, like I said, the best parts of me and the worst parts, and being so consistent and not just abandoning me. Like when, things got
being consistent
hard. Yeah. So she is seriously an angel on earth, like the closest thing. I'm like my mother. Yeah. And then also my friends, like I said, and you being one of them. So thank you.
We're
guys
the true lads.
The true lads. If anyone knows what that means.
So basically we call our group of friends the true lads. We don't really know why, but you like to call people lads. So I guess that's
instead of encouragement, we say lad
encouragement. We're going to give some people lad encouragement today with this podcast.
Yes. Yeah, but truly, you guys are an inspiration. Surround yourself around great people.
Totally. I couldn't agree more.
That champion you.
That know your light for you.
Ooh.
What do you do for other people? So.
Well, that's you. Seriously.
That's you.
You
remind people of who they are.
That's so you.
You do that too.
You literally call people.
We're done. Okay. And then final question would be, no, not final. Sorry, folks, not final. But I will ask,
whoa.
What would be like an inspirational quote or a Bible verse or a story that you feel like has really connected with your own journey in life, or that has really given you hope?
Well, I have one on my phone.
Wow. It's like we didn't prepare for this beforehand.
Exactly. I'm like, well, can definitely think of some
That was
experiences
the worst wink
for
in the
sure.
world
But
from
this,
I
what
was
you
winking
say?
at the camera. Wow, this
I
is the
can't really
most like
wink.
raw I've ever been on a podcast. So that's
Aw,
great.
I love that for you.
I love it for me too. All right, go.
Okay, so I love C.S. Lewis, and he just says life with God is not immunity from difficulties, but peace in difficulties.
Not immune from difficulties. Ooh.
Is not immunity.
And that's the real life, when you can go through crap and then you can also just be like, yes. Like
Yeah.
It's not that I feel powerful, but like I have this beautiful hope with me.
It's
through all
not the
this.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Okay. That's great. C.S. Lewis.
Yes.
C.S. Lewis, my
yeah,
man.
he's great. Is he really your man? Do you love okay.
I mean, I liked Mere Christianity.
Oh, yeah. I only got
I haven't-
halfway through that book.
I haven't read
But-
Screw Tape Letters or
Oh,
any of
yeah.
those
I'm
other
reading that
ones.
right now. Interesting. Yeah. But yeah, I would say that. And then, yeah, just the people that have surrounded me that have just reminded me, like, I can't stress enough how important it is to find people that champion you, that also call you out when you're not acting right, which is important. You don't just want to surround yourself around people that just tell you everything you want to hear all the time. You want someone that's going to do tough love. And I am so thankful to God that he brought those people in my life, but I also had to allow it too. So yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see that.
So allowing those people to come in.
Yeah.
And I could think of countless experiences, but we'd be here for a couple
5
hours. Yeah. So
5 specifically.
thanks to my friends, thanks to my mom.
Thanks to the lads and
You're
the lad
watching,
encouragement.
Mom.
Thanks, Anne.
To the lads. Yes.
Okay. And last question though, who would you say Rachael Nemiroff, which I keep getting your name right finally.
Yes.
Woo!
Woo!
Who would you say Rachael Nemiroff is now that you've unlocked your freedom?
Oh, I would say I feel like I'm more bold, which, has not always
You are bold.
been the thing. So even though I can seem like soft-spoken and laid back, I feel like there's a boldness that's there that wasn't there before. Yeah.
Yes.
And you've seen it.
I have. We aren't talking about that, but
oh my gosh, I don't want to sound bad. Boldness, I would say I definitely have a lot more courage and just feeling more comfortable in who God's created me to be, like more comfortable in my skin, more comfortable with who I am, my story. And I know this might sound cliche, but I feel freer than ever.
yes,
I really
you
do.
feel freedom.
I do. Like, I don't feel, again, like there's times where certain things come up where I can notice like, oh, I'm people pleasing or whatnot. Like there's still those tendencies, but I don't feel like bound by that anymore because I can recognize and identify when it's coming up. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was like childlike Rachel, you know, doing some of that stuff. So
like the chains have been broken off and you've unlocked your freedom.
Unlocked my freedom, boldness, courage, just feeling freer than ever and feeling like I have a voice and that I can speak up. Speak up for myself, speak up for others. And
so good. So freaking good. I love that. So where can people find you on social media?
At Rachael Nemiroff.
All right. We will put that in not the description. What do you call it? We'll display it on the screen so that it's easy for people to find you.
Amazing.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Talking about your life story, bullying, and how that really impacted you. And just talking about like how even though you're like still sort of in the midst of some of this, like you really are just talking about how you're owning everything in your life. And I think that's so important. Like I say this every single podcast, but that is the theme of the podcast is like talking about the things that you're going through and that you haven't necessarily fully overcome. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily being vulnerable, but it's like just talking about things as they're happening and owning it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you so much. Seriously. So grateful for you, your friendship.
So grateful
so
for
excited.
you. Laddie-dee.
Laddie-dum. Okay.
If you want more life-giving conversations like what you heard today with my good friend Rachael Nemiroff, then you should click the big red subscribe button. Also, go and follow me on Instagram, DM me, let's chat. You will find some very weird, wild, and hopefully inspirational content, right, Rachel? On my Instagram? Hopefully. Go follow me. It's The Rage Boss. You'll find some wild content. All right. Well, we'll see you next time, folks. Till then, goodbye. Bye.